I should have never gone back to that lake. Even as I say this, I can still hear the water lapping against the shore, slow and steady, like the sound of something breathing in the dark. People always told stories about haunted lake camp. Most laughed them off as campfire tales, but I thought I was braver. I thought I could spend one night there and prove to myself it was all just rumors. It wasn't. The camp sat in the middle of the woods, forgotten, the kind of place where silence feels thicker than the air itself. By the time I pitched my tent near the water, the sun had already drowned in the horizon, leaving only the pale glow of the moon. The trees stood like black silhouettes, twisted and unmoving, and the lake itself was a sheet of ink. My flashlight beam barely touched it. It felt like the darkness swallowed the light whole. At first, it was quiet, too quiet. No crickets, no owls, not even the wind. Just that steady ripple of water. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just nerves, but there was a weight in the air, pressing against my chest, making every breath harder than it should have been. I built a small fire, more for comfort than for warmth. The flames flickered weakly, as if they didn't belong there, like they too were being suffocated by the night. The light pushed the shadows back, but only a little. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was standing just beyond it, waiting for me to look away. I told myself I was imagining things, but then I saw them. Eyes, two faint glimmers reflecting from across the lake. At first, I thought it might have been an animal, maybe a deer, maybe even a raccoon. But no animal's eyes glowed like that, not with that pale, unnatural greenish-white shine. They didn't blink, they didn't move, they just stared at me. I froze, gripping my flashlight, pointing it toward the water, but the beam didn't reach far enough. The surface rippled, disturbed by something heavy, something big moving beneath it. And then, silence again. The eyes were gone. I laughed nervously to myself, trying to shake it off, telling myself it was a trick of the firelight, but the laugh felt hollow, forced. Deep down, I already knew I wasn't alone out there. The hours dragged on. I kept hearing faint splashes, far away at first, then closer. Once, I swore I heard wet, dragging footsteps against the shore. I leaned out of my tent, my heart thundering, and the water was still, perfectly still. But the smell hit me, a foul, rotten stench, like something had been pulled out of the lake and left to rot under the summer sun. It clung to the air, thick, unbearable, crawling into my lungs. That's when I realized I had made a mistake coming here. Something was in that lake, and it knew I was here. The smell only grew stronger as the night deepened, like the lake itself was rotting. I tried to ignore it, tried to force myself to sleep, but my body wouldn't let me. Every sound was too sharp, every silence too heavy. I kept glancing at the thin fabric of the tent, half expecting to see a shadow press against it, claws dragging across. At some point, the fire outside had died. I hadn't even noticed until the orange glow vanished, replaced by a suffocating darkness. That was when I heard it, breathing. Not mine. Slow, wet, rattling breaths coming from just beyond the tent wall. It sounded like lungs full of water, each inhale strained, each exhale bubbling with something thick. I clamped my hand over my mouth, trying to silence the panic that rose inside me. The breaths grew louder, closer, circling the tent, and then silence. I waited, every second stretching into eternity. When I finally dared to look, I unzipped the tent just an inch and peeked outside. The forest was still, too still. The air was cold and damp, heavy with mist curling off the surface of the lake. My flashlight beam cut through it weakly, trembling in my hand. That's when I saw the shape. It was crouched at the water's edge, its limbs too long, too thin, its back hunched unnaturally. Its skin glistened, slick and black, like it had just dragged itself out of the depths. I couldn't see its face at first, until it turned. Those eyes. Those horrible, glowing eyes. They locked on me instantly, like it had been waiting for me to look. My breath caught in my throat. It didn't move right away. It just stared, tilting its head slowly, like it was studying me, memorizing me. Then, in one jerking, unnatural motion, it rose to its full height. Taller than any person I'd ever seen, its shadow stretched across the trees. Its hands ended in long, bony claws, dripping with lake water. I stumbled back, zipped the tent shut, and pressed my hands against my ears, as if that could block out the world. But it didn't matter. I could still hear it. Splash, drag, splash, drag. The sound of it moving, slowly, deliberately, around my tent. sometimes stopping, sometimes dragging its claws against the wet earth. The smell was unbearable now, seeping through the fabric, filling every breath I took. My chest tightened until I thought I might suffocate. And then a voice. It wasn't clear, not like a person speaking, more like a drowned whisper, bubbling and broken, seeping into my mind rather than my ears. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew they were meant for me. Each syllable felt like water filling my skull, cold and suffocating. I don't know how long it lasted, minutes, hours, but at some point the noises stopped. The smell faded. The silence returned. I thought it was gone. I wanted to believe it had lost interest in me. But when I finally looked out again, the tent was surrounded. Wet footprints, dozens of them, circling my camp in the mud. And they weren't all the same size. The footprints, they weren't just large. Some were small, almost childlike, others twisted, misshapen, like broken bones pressing into the mud. My blood ran cold as I realized what it meant. There wasn't just one thing in that lake. There were many. My mind screamed at me to run, to leave everything behind and sprint into the woods, but my body refused. My legs felt like stone, heavy and useless, as if the ground itself wanted me to stay. I clutched the flashlight tighter, though the batteries were dying, the beam flickering weakly in the fog. That's when I heard it again. The water. It wasn't the gentle ripple from earlier. This was violent, frantic, like dozens of bodies thrashing beneath the surface. The sound grew louder, closer, until the lake boiled with movement. I staggered backward, tripping over the ropes of my tent, my eyes locked on the water. And then they emerged. Hands, gray, skeletal hands, grasping the shore, pulling themselves out. One after another, shapes dragged their wet bodies from the lake. Some crawled on all fours, their limbs bending wrong. Others stumbled upright, towering, their glowing eyes fixed on me. The mist swallowed most of their details, but I could hear them, their breath, their guttural whispers, the sloshing of water dripping from their rotting skin. I ran. I don't even remember deciding to. 1 second I was frozen. The next I was tearing through the woods, branches clawing at my arms, roots threatening to trip me. Behind me, the sounds followed. Splashes, wet footsteps, the groan of trees bending as something massive moved through them. No matter how fast I ran, the stench clung to me, choking me. Every time I looked back, I saw flashes of pale eyes in the darkness, too many to count, chasing, closing in. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually my legs gave out. I collapsed onto the damp forest floor, gasping, my chest burning. The woods were silent again, but not empty. I could feel them, watching, circling, patient. I forced myself up, stumbled forward until I reached a clearing. The moonlight broke through just enough to show me something I can't forget. Another tent, old, shredded, half buried in the mud. Around it, the same footprints I'd seen at my camp. Some of the canvas was torn open, dark stains soaking the fabric. My stomach twisted as I realized I wasn't the first. Someone else had tried to stay here. And whatever came out of the lake, they didn't leave. The whispers started again, closer this time, crawling into my skull. I dropped my flashlight. It rolled into the dirt, flickered, and died. The darkness swallowed me whole. And then I saw them, dozens of eyes opening in the tree line, glowing faintly one by one, like stars igniting in the night. They weren't chasing anymore. They were waiting, surrounding me. I don't remember screaming, but my throat is raw, torn. I don't remember running again, but somehow I'm still here, speaking these words. Maybe I never escaped. Maybe I'm still in those woods, circling that cursed lake. All I know is this: when you hear water breathing where it shouldn't, don't look.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.